Motion to adjourn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Scott County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's board meeting where we will be discussing the proposed 2020 county budget and tax levy. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to attend our meeting. The purpose of the public hearing is to explain the proposed budget and levy for 2020 and to obtain your input into the proposed 2020 budget. Some of you may be present to talk about your market values or property classification. During this meeting, we will not be discussing individual values or classifications. The paid 2020 notices of value and classification were sent out last March with your 2019 tax statement. The right to appeal your classification and or value is listed on that notice at various dates, times, and locations. The county's Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting is held in June of each year. We do have county staff present who are available to sit down with you individually to discuss your valuation and answer any questions you may have. Feel free to meet with the county assessor and his staff now or after the meeting. This evening's meeting is limited to the county budget and the factors that make up the budget. Although market valuation variables are a component of the budget, they're not central to the purpose of tonight's meeting. You are welcome to ask questions and provide comments into the county's budget and tax levy following the presentation. At this time, I will turn the public hearing over to Chief Financial Officer Danny Lentz, who will lead our discussion this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, and good evening. We are here to talk about the proposed 2020 budget, which the board will be voting on December 17th. Public comment is welcome during this meeting after my presentation. And this is a process that really starts pretty much as soon as we enter the new year with developing the next year's budget between staff looking at things and then presenting with the county board as early as April or May to start getting some initial insights into the meeting. So this is the culmination of a project and a process that goes along all year long. So tonight we're going to be talking about the general board policy direction with the budget and how we maintain fiscal stability in the county, an update on the 2020 budget, our 5-year financial forecast, and the community indicators that we have that try and relate the impact of the budget decisions on the public more generally. So we've had consistent board policy and direction for some time, provide long-term fiscal stability while minimizing tax impacts, maintain a reasonable level and constant tax burden focused on modeling limited and relatively level increases, manage limited resources over unlimited demands, and provide the level of services necessary to meet mandates and citizen expectations. In order to maintain that fiscal stability, we look at a structurally balanced budget, maintaining the county's reserve or fund balance, maintaining the county's bond rating, planning and preparing for the future, and also not spiking the levy, and no surprises. So when we look at fiscal stability and a structurally balanced budget, it's not just about the dollars that go into a balanced budget, but it's about the needs of the taxpayers, the quality of the programs and services we provide, and the tax levy that's necessary in order to support those things, trying to constantly balance those in juxtaposition to one another. Fiscal stability with our county fund balance. As you can see in 2009, we weren't within that band that meets the auditor's recommended fund balance. And we've done a lot of work as an organization to be in that band and to maintain that fund balance going forward. This gets us through 2018. I would note that at the end of 2019, we expect to have more dollars in that fund balance based on our last fiscal projections. Our county bond rating, we've been AAA for some time now. And in 2019, we had that reconfirmed and actually improved in some of the areas on that bond rating. Plan and prepare for the future. So this is the forecast we had for our last year's budget. This shows 2018 to where we expect to be by 2023. That tax levy is hovering right between that 3 and 4.5% is what we're seeing based on our salary assumptions, what we expect for revenues, and those planned expenditures we have. I'm also showing that our ending fund balance is remaining healthy within that band as well that we need to be in. Then net levy versus inflation and new construction combined. This is one of our markers to indicate, are we staying within that no spikes, no surprises for the levy? As you can see, years hovered right in between 3 and 5%. We expect that to be kind of our trend moving forward based on what happens with state decisions and the economy. So, budget development goals. Fund salary and benefit increases, maintain critical operations, increase our CIP funding, provide funding for facility improvements, and keep the levy within the 5-year forecast estimates. So getting into the budget, what's actually included in there. Funding for salary and benefit increases. It maintains the county's current compensation strategy, which we just discussed, keeping employees competitive within the market. Funding for public safety functions to keep pace with community growth. Increased funding to maintain minimal staffing levels in key public safety areas. And utilizing technology to improve services and operations. We also are looking to maintain capital with our plans for the future. Increased ongoing CIP funding for this year, and this is the last year of a multi-year planned CIP increase. Funding for our financial system replacement. Funding to provide for a new medical examiner's facility and the IRTS facility in Savage. We have some fleet replacement going in, tandem trucks, sheriff's vehicles, and the veterans bus, and then the County Highway 42 expansion. We're also having to include funding for state mandated services, primarily being driven by out-of-home placement costs and court administration. These are the funding requests that we have included within the 2020 budget. A $400,000 increase for public safety, including a new county attorney, legal assistant, 2 911 dispatchers, and 2 part-time positions in our JAF facility. Out-of-home placement and court-appointed attorney are again driving that state mandated services. Software licensing increases for our advanced traffic management system. Facilities capital replacement program increase of $55,000. Program increases for HHS, partly being driven by a new mental health center supervisor, and then increased costs for the medical examiner contract that we share with Hennepin County and Dakota County. So looking at that, as the new funding requests that come from departments, we also have about $3.5 million in salary and benefits. The CIP funding increase, Info replacement, which is the major financial software, our utilities, postage, insurance increase is going up $138,000, and then our contribution to the medical examiner's facility of $100,000, creating a need for about a $2.7 million levy increase or 3.95% tax increase.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
Danny,
Berry.
a levy increase of 3.95%, and you said tax increase.
Yes, levy increase.
Levy increase, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Very important.
Because they are two different things, yes,
There-
it's,
Yes.
yes.
So the 2020 levy, just how that makes up, our operating budget is going up by about $2.2 million, or a 4% change, and our capital and debt is going up by about $500,000, 3.8%. That $500,000 is made up of 2 key components. One is the $300,000 increase to the CIP. The other $200,000 is moving money out of the operating budget into the debt budget in order to fund our contribution to the IRTS facility, because we wanted that money held out and separate where we can track it. Adding that together equates to the 3.95% levy increase. So this graph just shows the levy as a percent of the county's annual budget, which is one of our community indicators. And really overall, we've been reducing our reliance on the levy in order to meet our operational needs. In fact, we're at about 50% of our operations are actually funded by the levy. As we look at our capital budget, only 20% of the capital we do is funded by the levy, which is a pretty significant accomplishment considering all the things we've been able to do with our transportation projects. And then this just shows that our credit rating again is maintained at AAA, and we've actually improved in some of the factors that go into that. And that's one of the few things that we can control in the credit rating. When they look at outside influences, we have a lot of areas that we can influence, but if we control our policies and make sure they're tight, we can actually improve our credit rating and help to alleviate external influences on that.
Are you saying that they look deeper than the AAA when we're going out for a bond or so forth?
They look at quite a few different factors. One of them is the external economy. What's the health of that? That can have a lot of impact on our bond rating. When they look at the different areas of internal operations like fund balance, our policies, our operational practices, they look at that as well. That makes up that AAA rating. We were already at a AAA, but there were areas in our policy specifically that we tightened up and improved those policies that actually made us more favorable in that bond rating, even though there's nothing better than AAA by this rating agency. Okay. So going from the budget into our 5-year financial forecast, what's included? So total rewards, salary and benefit growth estimates based on our existing labor agreements and board direction. The additional debt service, which is being used for the new building and the remodeling of building, which is not going to impact the levy in our financial model. The medical examiner and IRTS facility funding, providing ongoing funding to the treatment court, technology updates, and revenue assumptions being built in and increased in the next couple of years based on where we're seeing our actuals come in. What's not included in this forecast? Some of the impacts of labor negotiations, inflationary operational cost increases excluding salary and benefits where we're seeing those higher than previous modeling. Responses to demand increases and maintaining service levels, materials, contracting costs, and staffing demand. Strategic plan initiatives are not included in this. And then one that's come up more lately is DHS reductions from federal compliance violations. We're seeing attempts to claw back previous allocations that have been made, as well as what are going to be the impacts and the reductions in revenues that we don't really know and have clear direction on from the state at this point. So, looking out over the next 5 years, this is really where we're seeing our levy going to be at. The brownish line on the top that runs straight across is what the overall levy is going to be. The more zigzag line there is what we're currently forecasting our levy percentage change to be, including those things that we already know. As we look in the out years, it looks a little bit better because there's decisions that get made each and every year that impact where we're going to be in those out years. And this also does not include things like departments' requests that come in each year. So this is just kind of how we make up those numbers. So the CIP is remaining flat. The TIP is remaining flat with what we're seeing for the levy increases right now. You'll see the debt levy going up, but that is just because of the reallocation from the operating levy to the debt levy to handle the increase in the debt service for the new building construction. And then we have the total net levy there across the bottom. And this is a picture of our operating budget. So this line, that brown line, is showing what our overall operating budget is. And then the blue line that cuts across it is the percentage of fund balance as a part of the operating levy. The bottom green line is our fund balance, which we project to stay flat. We don't really project increases to the fund balance amount. And then that bottom blue line is our coverage in the fund balance, that minimum balance we maintain throughout the year to make sure we can meet operational costs as we wait for property tax payments to be made throughout the year. As part of our policy, if we show in the model that our fund balance at that lower blue line level is ever below 5%, we need to come up with a plan in order to address that. Right now, we're sitting well with even in this model. And I'd also reiterate that we do use a very conservative approach to budgeting where we try and overestimate our expenditures a little bit, underestimate our revenues. So over the last several years, we've put money at the end of the year into the fund balance so that we don't have to levy specifically to increase the fund balance. So looking back again at one of our benchmarks, that fiscal stability, don't spike the levy, no surprises. You can see where we're coming in for the 2020 budget. We're still right within that area that we've talked about, 3 to 5%, hovering right below 4% levy increase. So talking a little bit now about some of our community indicators and the impacts of these decisions on our residents. Our tax rate continues to decline for another year, reaching a high in 2013 of 40.7%, down to 32.61% for the 2020 budget. Residential property tax change. This shows the dollar amount change and the number of households seeing that change. So, for example, that $19,527 is the number of property taxpayers who are going to see a $10 to $49 decrease in their taxes from the county's tax levy. So we have more people who are going to see a lower tax levy from the county than we do people who are going to see an increase. And even those who are going to see an increase, the vast majority are seeing less than $100 over the entire year from the county's levy. This doesn't include other entities' levies. This is our county tax levy per capita. We've gone from $416 in 2014 to $463 in 2020. About a $47 increase in total in the per capita tax levy. The other line is the all communities tax levies that levy property taxes here, and we don't have that 2020 data yet for this slide. And then county levy as a percentage of total personal income. This basically says what percentage of people's income are they paying to Scott County and all of our counties that levy property taxes of their income for the services we provide. And again, I'm happy to say that in 2018, our residents paid a smaller percentage of their income in property taxes to us than they did in 2017. And we're projecting for that to remain flat or go down for the 2019 year as well. So, tonight, we're at our Truth and Taxation meeting, where the public has an opportunity to comment on the budget. Pending any board direction here, we will bring back the budget on December 17th for final approval. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Wonderful. Any questions for Mr. Lenz? I think we've all seen this, been working on it, been part of getting this to the point. You've done a great job. This is a public hearing, so if anyone's here and would like to speak to the board about the 2020 budget and its impacts, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Madam Chair, did we vote to open the public hearing?
I'm sorry. It is a public hearing,
You could just
right?
open it. We
I
have to vote
opened
to
it.
close.
Yep,
Okay,
it's open. Huh, one of my last
There you go.
things I can do. Welcome. Hi.
I'm Rosemary Schmidt. I'm at 2514 Howard Trail. I really didn't think I was going to be the first one speaking up here tonight, and I didn't really want to at all. But I do have some concerns. I've been in this community for over 40 years. And when he had the slide about the percentage of income that property taxes were to people, were to, to the residents, the impact, well, my property taxes have gone up 50% in the last 5 years. I'm a federal employee. My wages have been frozen for almost most of the last 10 years. So where is this money supposed to be coming from? And I know it's not just the county. It's everybody needs to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. He said it's going to cost, I don't know, what was it, 30 or I don't know, a small portion. I know that mine for the county was $160 this year. So whatever the $50 or $60 figure he had, that's not accurate in my case. And I just would like you people to realize that, yeah, I mean, if it continues, I'm not the only person. I know other people that are in this situation, and it can be taxing us out of the home that we raised our children in. And I came here to just say that to you and let you realize that it's just not coming out of the air. You know, I think I got a 1.2% increase one year and maybe a 0.7% increase the other year. Federal employees have just had their wages frozen. So where is all this wonderful money supposed to come from? Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming to speak to us, and know that we do take your comments seriously, and we appreciate that you came to share them. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Gary Shelton. I live at 20810 Hickory Lane in Prior Lake. It's actually in Spring Lake Township. I'm in Commissioner Wolf's district. And I came to compliment the board. I'm thrilled to see that the tax rate continues to decline. While Minnesota has a very complex tax structure, the only number in there that really is an indication of whether or not the board is doing what it can do to control taxes is the tax rate. Because the tax rate and your value, in essence, is what determines how much you pay. And so every year when you take actions that cause that tax rate to continue going down, that is controlling taxes. And I was thrilled to see that you're continuing to invest in infrastructure and in the fiscal stability of the county. And so while I no longer work here, I wanted to take this opportunity to come and thank the board for continuing in that particular direction. I took a look at my own tax statement, and my value has not changed a lot in the last 5 years. In fact, my value is only $400 difference now from what it was 5 years ago of my home, and yet my taxes are 10% lower. So while I understand that a lot of people's taxes have gone up, it's generally not because of what the board has done, it's because the economy has driven the value of their homes up. Because if the value of your home has stayed constant, which mine has, it's gone up and down, but generally over the last number of years it's stayed relatively constant, your taxes are going down, and so I appreciate the board's work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for attending tonight. Any other comments?
Well, as long as I'm here, I can
Yeah,
comment one more time.
certainly.
Do I have to walk up there?
Yeah, you should, because then it's recorded.
Well, may not be at the right meeting, because as we're addressing value, my property value has, I mean, it went up 40,000 last year and another 40,000 this year. Now, did they mess up that bad last year, you know? The insurance company put a new roof on, but the roof wasn't old, it was just hail damage. It only had 15 years on it. So that didn't increase the value. And I put a new coat of paint on it. So that's it. The doors are rusting, there's a lot of things, it's not. And so how can that, am I at the wrong meeting for that?
Well,
'Cause
no,
I just wanted to say,
Well-
my property value
Yeah.
is constantly
Right,
increasing. So I
right.
don't know what world I'm living in. but-
Well, we're glad you came to this meeting too, to hear the information, but I see Michael Thompson in the back of the room, and he can speak with you more about the value, maybe look at that and make sure that that's accurate. So I
appreciate
encourage you to talk with him.
All right, thank you. Now?
Madam Chair, while Michael Thompson is in the room,
Yeah.
my valuation jumped almost 80,000 this year, so now it's about where I think it should be, so thank you.
For selling it, you want it, right?
I'm selling it.
Thank you for coming, Ms. Schmidt.
Some paint on it.
Other comments or questions for Danny?
Madam Chair, I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Do I need discussion on that? I don't think so. I don't think we need a discussion.
We're not gonna argue
All
with
in
you.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for your work. Thank you, Leslie, for your work on this. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everyone. Steve, Ellen, yeah, great. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
There you go.